Welcome back to Fun on Fiddle, a series to help young people learn how to enjoy the fiddle. Fun on Fiddle lessons consist of three types of lessons. The first type is your regular lesson. That's where the student watches the lesson and learns a skill or a song or both. The second kind of lesson are practice lessons. Practice lessons are indicated by the alphabet A, B, C, D, and they cover the songs that I teach in the regular lessons. And then the third kind of lesson are skills lessons. The skills lessons, unlike the regular lesson and the practice lessons, are to help the helper of the student learn to do something or to observe the person who's learning to play the violin, fiddle, and help them to do it properly. Today's lesson is about how to tune the violin. Now, a lot of people feel intimidated by tuning the violin. There are two really good things that you need to know about tuning the violin. Number one, if the student is treating the violin or the fiddle carefully, it will stay in tune. In fact, I estimate that I don't spend more than 3 minutes a week tuning the violin, and I play it a lot. The other thing is it's not that difficult. It's actually pretty easy, especially if you have an electronic tuner like I'm going to demonstrate for you today. I don't necessarily recommend this one. It's a good one. It's my second one, but they're readily available at music stores and online. So let's get started. First, a little anatomy of the violin. Of course, it's the body of the violin, the neck of the violin with the strings and tuning pegs. And then this is called the scroll up here. It's the curly thing at the top. You need to know that when you're tuning the violins with your left hand, you need to hold it by the neck. Or if you're doing it left-handed, you need to hold it with your right hand, and then you turn the pegs to make big changes. Now, sometimes you'll find the violin you need to make some big changes. For example, if it got dropped, a lot of times it'll come completely out of tune. But most of the time, if you're treating it carefully, it won't get out of tune. Again, use the big pegs for making big changes. Then down here at the bottom of the strings, right there, are little tiny wheels. And when you get the violin close to being in tune, you turn the little wheels, and that will get it exactly in tune if you'll be careful and listen to it. So let's get started. Before we do that, do let me touch on the strings. There are four strings here, four pegs. The top string, the low one, is the G string, but I also call it in the lessons the fourth string. The second from the top is the D string, also known as string number 3. The third from the top, or the next to the bottom, whichever one you want to call it, is the A string, also known as the second string in these lessons. And then the first string, the skinny one down on the bottom, is called the E string. Now that sounds like a lot to remember, and you may want to write those down initially, but you'll get used to them. It's just four things to learn. And the easy way to remember them is to remember what Australian people say. They say, "Good day." That could be spelled Gday, but there's no Y string on any musical instrument. So we'll say it's really spelled Gdae. That means from the top string is G, the next to the top is D, the next to the bottom is A, and the bottom is E. Gdae. So let's get started now that you understand the strings. I'm going to take my electronic tuner and turn it on by pushing a little button right there. Now you can't see it because I'm not playing any musical instrument right now, but when I do, let's see if it'll read. All right, it really has to be attached to the violin to hear well. And I do use the word fiddle and violin simultaneously. Let's try it now. All right, see there? It says G. And you'll see what I'm trying to get is a blue line. So it's actually very close to being in tune. That's the D, no, excuse me, the G, the thick string. So I'm going to come right here and turn this little wheel a little bit. There we have it, right on pitch. All right, I know I made that seem too easy. So we're going to take it out of pitch a long way. But first we're going to pretend that this thing is a little bit hard to turn. So what we're going to do is we're going to wiggle it a little bit, just like that. That'll make it a lot easier to turn. All right. Now you see it says F sharp. It doesn't say G. So what we're going to do, we're going to turn it around, and I'm going to hold the neck with my right hand because the pegs that I'm going to be tuning is right here on the side. And I'm going to go up with it. All right, now you'll see I've gone too high, so I'm going to have to turn this one down a little bit. All right, we went a little bit too low. All right, a little too high again. All right, there we have it, right on where it's supposed to be. Now, that seems to be pretty easy, right? That's because it is pretty easy. You just have to get used to twisting those pegs a little bit before you get started, and then listen and watch the thing on there. Now I'm going to do the next string just so you can see. That's what it's supposed to be. See how the blue line is up at the top? All right, I'm going to take it out of tune. And I'm going to wiggle it a little bit so it'll tune easier. All right, now you see it's C, so it needs to go on up to D. All right, all right. Gotta go up some more. It's hard for me to do it facing away from me, so. All right, just a little bit too high, so we're gonna come down with it a little bit. All right, you see I got a blue line pointing straight up. That means right on. Now go back and look at the D. All right, it's a little bit low, so we'll go up a tiny bit. All right, there. We've done two strings, and that's really half the job right there. The other strings don't need any special demonstration because you do them exactly the same way, except for you hold the violin in your other hand and use your right hand on this side. It's actually pretty easy. And the nice thing is you're doing it for a student who probably can't hear the difference anyway, but you'll get used to it and you'll get better, so it's really nothing to worry about. I encourage you to practice it, and at least once a week, whether the student points it out to you or not, you should check it using your tuner. I have seen videos of classes of 40 and 50 students who the teacher's helpers go around and tune every student's violin in less than 10 to 15 minutes before they get started. So, and that's with no electronic tuner, doing it all by ear. So you should be able to do it before long to do it really well. I'm certain that you will. Thank you for your time. Be sure and follow up with your students' progress and encourage them to have a good time. And you have a good time too.